Living 365 TV. I'm your host, Priya Ali. This show is designed to bring you real experts, real tools for real people like you who are ready to stop waiting and start living 365. Happy New Year, everyone. I want to start off by wishing you all the very best New Year ahead of you, 365 days of it, and to thank you, all the viewers, for taking time out to continue watching our show and supporting us. And we hope to continue to bring you another year full of enhancing topics that will help you live your life in a different way, think differently, change it up, switch it up, have a fabulous New Year. So I just want to, from my team, to thank you and your family for tuning in. Today we're talking about perception. What is perception and how do we perceive things and how can that impact our lives? Well, perception is definitely all about the way that we receive information, the way that we take a look at a situation and decide what's going on. And so often our perception can really lead us into trouble. It's basically similar to assuming. When you see something or you hear something, you're going to decide what it means, how it was said. We all know about text tone and email tone. We'll see words in writing and then I myself do it. I'll be reading something and I read it with a tone like, oh, and she said it like this. It's an email or a text. How can you hear the way the person texted it or wrote it? It's not possible. It's all about our perception. And so many conflicts arise from a misperception. Misunderstanding comes from perceiving things in our own way. Now, one of the things that I offer as a service of mine is intensive relationship rescue. And what that is I kind of, not quite move in, but I go over to a married couple's house whose marriage is in trouble, and we start off on a Friday night, and I finish off on Sunday. I leave them alone in the evenings, and we go through their marriage. And what I often find is that they're describing the same years of their lives together. They're describing the same interactions. They're describing the same scenarios. They're describing the same events. But they have two different stories to tell. How does that work? Well, it's all about our perceptions. When you're looking at a situation, when you're participating in a situation from your point of view, you're only seeing it from your point of view. Right now, I'm looking at you. I can see the camera. You can't see the camera because you're in a different point of view right now. You're looking back at me. You can see the screen behind me. We're kind of in the same moment right now, but yet we're seeing things two different ways. And that's often what's happening, if not always what's happening, when people are interacting with one another in whatever medium they're choosing to interact in. So one of the things I want to encourage you to do is kind of maybe take a step back. Like what I might do is turn my chair around and see what you see from the other way. You know, it's a pretty good looking sign if I do say so myself, but it's about putting yourself in someone else's shoes, actually thinking about what it would be like, where they're coming from, how they might be feeling. I had a situation just today where somebody was upset with something that they felt that I had done. And at first, when they brought it to my attention, they were upset and they sent me a lengthy email about it and they explained everything and they were going to make a decision, and it possibly included severing our interaction or the relationship as we know it. And initially, I was taken aback. I was hurt. I was shocked. I became angry. I wanted to fire back. But I've learned through my own life and through my coaching practice to take a step back, take a moment before we react. And part of understanding how to deal with perception is doing just that. Instead of reacting, take a moment, allow it to sit so that you can respond. Responding is much different than reacting. If I were to have reacted today, I would have jumped on my phone, fired back a nasty email, retaliated, got back with anger in my tone, in my voice, in my words. But I chose not to do that. I chose to let it settle in for a minute, and then I went to respond. And even at that time, because I wasn't quite aware of what was going on, I left a phone message asking for more clarity, because even then I still wasn't sure what I was being sort of accused of, or whatever the term is that this person was saying, the things that I had done. I really wasn't certain where it was coming from and how it came about. And even before I got to the point of being ready to respond, I decided to do what I call sort of step 2. So first step is avoid reacting. The second step is ask for clarity. Ask the other person, what's really going on here? Tell me exactly what it is that you're talking about. And again, when I finally got this person on the phone, I had to remind myself the next step, which is to listen. When you ask for clarity, the person will start talking, and generally speaking, what we're doing is we're listening to respond. We're listening so that we can defend. We're listening so that we can retaliate. And I reminded myself, just listen. Just let this person finish. Let them say what they have to say. Allow them to articulate their emotions and their feelings and recount the story the way that they felt and perceived it. And so I allowed this person the opportunity to go ahead and speak about what the beef was. And at that time, I was able to just calmly respond with my own facts. I find that really helps when you're going through, maybe a situation conflict or something's come about because of somebody's perception. Just stick with the facts. They say, just the facts, ma'am. Just stick with the facts, because when you stick with the facts, you tend not to get into that emotional space. And if you can imagine being able to communicate not from that emotional space, and from a space of just factually what happened and the way that you were thinking at the time, it tends to diffuse the situation. And the other person isn't going to feel like you're in this attack zone, that you guys are doing this tennis game or this battle back and forth. It gives them the sense of they're being heard. So, one of the great lines that I've learned to use, and I think I learned this in college in communications and psychology, was, what I heard you say was. When you're in a situation, by using the phrase, what I heard you say was, it actually allows the other person to recognize, one, possibly that you actually do hear what they're saying, or that you don't hear at all what they're saying, and maybe they need to clarify again. So I can liken this to a time when I was married, having conversations with my husband at the time, and him saying something to me and me listening just to respond, to defend, and to state my position, versus really listening to hear what he was saying. And it makes a huge difference when you actually take a step back and listen to what the other person is saying, because what they're trying to tell you is why they were feeling, or how they were feeling, or when you did this, I felt. Now, generally speaking, we don't talk like this. It would be really useful and helpful if we did, but generally speaking, we don't. So when you're having a conversation with someone where maybe you've gotten into some sort of disagreement, or there's a misunderstanding, remember to really just, again, I want to recap, is respond rather than react. So avoid reacting right away, and then ask for clarity. Get to the point of listening, and listen to hear what the other person is saying versus listen to respond. And then at that point in time, you may need to repeat. You want to repeat, I heard you say, what I heard you say is, and once you get a response back from them, you may need to repeat the whole thing all over again until you come to a place of being ready to move forward. But I can definitely tell you that during the example I was giving you, referring to the example that I had this afternoon, it definitely did diffuse the situation. We were able to move forward. And what I heard the other person say to me was that their feelings were hurt by me not demonstrating or articulating appreciation for the things that they had felt that they had done for me. This person felt that they had put in a lot of effort and a lot of time into something that I was working on for me. And they didn't really feel as though I had shown appreciation to them. They witnessed me show appreciation to other people, and they didn't feel appreciated in this situation. And what ended up happening was I was mortified by that, because I'm not a person that would want anyone to feel unappreciated around me for anything that they do or anything that they don't do. And so it was very much against the grain of what I'm all about. When I heard that, it became apparent to me that what was more important at that time? Was it important for me to be right? Or was it important for me to show that this person, that I actually do appreciate them? And was it more important for me to tune into the appreciation that I do have for them? Many times it's very likely that the first thing that we go to is we need to be right. And when you're in a situation where you're perceiving something, the thing is with perception that I've learned is everybody's right. When I look at these couples that I work with and I listen to their stories, the husband's side, the wife's side, they're both right. And they're both telling the truth because that's the way they see it. So by understanding that, this person this afternoon, she sees it that way because that's the pair of eyes she sees it with. and that's the way it presents to her, and that's the way it looks to her. One of the things that I sometimes do when I'm talking to people about perception is to hold up a glass, and I'll ask the clients, what is this? And they'll say, it's a glass. And I'll say to them, could it possibly, if I put some water inside and a flower, could it possibly be a vase? And they say yes. And I'll say, if I put a little tea light inside and light it, could it be a candle holder? They say yes. If I took some jelly beans or M&Ms and put it in there, could it be a candy dish? And they say yes. And I say, okay, because it's all about perception. It's all about what we believe something to be until we open up to the possibility that it could be something else. And so when you're communicating with people and things come up, it's really important to take a minute and ask yourself, what else could be going on here? What else is possible? This is what I think it is, but could it be something else? And by asking that person and sort of trying to see it from another perspective, it might still look like a glass to you, but to the other person, it looks like a candy dish. And as I'm saying to you, you're both right. And when you're dealing with perception and communication and altercations and arguments, understanding that it's probably less important to be right than it is to find a common ground. It's probably less important to be right than it is to find a way to move together. So many of us are caught up in our rightedness. And this is one of the things I did with this couple that I was working with. I really asked them, what's more important to you, to be right or to be happy? To be right or to be understood and understanding of the other person you're communicating with? And generally when I do pose this question, most people will say they want to be happy, or they want to be understanding, or they want to be compassionate. And when you're able to get to a place of being able to get out of that need for being right and being able to be in a place where you understand that, you know what, the other person is hurt. This other person that I was dealing with today, they were hurt. And at the end of the day, did I really want to hurt that person? Not at all. And would it make me feel better to know that I was right even though that person was hurt? Not really. Now, if you asked me that at the beginning of receiving the communication, I may have said, yeah, I think I'm right. But by giving myself some time to kind of let it sit and simmer and to talk it out with people that weren't involved in the situation. So I was able to talk to two of my friends about the situation where it wasn't personal. It wasn't personal to them, and we weren't going to hurt the other person by discussing it. It just allowed us all to vent, and it allowed me to vent, and it allowed me to bring it to a place where it's going and growing and flowing right now, even more so as I speak to you. Even when I sat down to do the show, it was still at a more heightened level than it is right now. And being able to just really look at the other person's side of things and where they're coming from and what they're feeling, it can really help you to change your perspective and your perception. And when you change that, it allows you to come from a place of more openness, more acceptance and understanding. And I really think that that helps people to have communication and experiences that will eventually run more smoothly and that will lead to more harmony, camaraderie, and a team effort. Interactions, pretty much any interaction that you have, even if it's with yourself, it's an interaction. It's you, yourself, and you. And with someone else, it's team effort. And so when you're working together towards something, towards a common goal, and this is one of the things, again, I speak to people in marriage about, but whether it's a marriage or a friendship or it's your relationship between you as a parent and your child or your siblings or what have you, it's something that maybe, think of looking at it that you're opening yourself up to a relationship that has a common goal. As a husband and a wife, you're a team, and you're actually both after the same common goal, which is your own happiness and your partner's happiness. And if you have children, their happiness. And if you're a parent and a child, you're a team. And you're looking for your happiness and the child's happiness and any other family member's happiness. If you're working in business, you're working as a team. You're looking for the success of yourself, the success of your business partner, and ultimately the success of the entire business. So when we start to work together and come together to focus on what really is the reason we're here, it can take away some of the sting of the things that happen on the way there, on the journey, and some of the little things that creep up for us, and allow things to rise up with us. And I think the term this person used was, it struck a nerve. And I can understand where they were coming from. Would it strike a nerve in me? Maybe not, probably not, but I'm not that person. And I'm coming to the point of the conversation, the more and more I speak to you, is it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. What matters is it struck a nerve with this person. And it's not something that I would set out to do. So what's more important to me? Is it to be right, or is it to be a team player? And I really think that it serves us all much more to be team players in our team with ourselves, our own mind, body, spirit team, or the teams that we play in, whether it be in our personal relationships, business relationships, the teams that we play in. So I encourage you to really take a step back, remember those steps, avoid reacting, ask for clarity, listen to hear rather than to respond. If you repeat, this is what I'm hearing you say. Give it back, feed it back to them. And then again, go through the whole process if you need more clarity. I look forward to seeing you again at our next episode. I want to remind you, as always, to stop waiting and start living 365.